Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this usual Thursday evening question and answer session, kite surfing question and answer session, should I say. If you're thinking I'm looking very dapper, very smart tonight, you are correct. It's because I am at a wedding, which is, I have to say, my idea of hell. So I'm very, very grateful to be here, having escaped from the wedding. I'm really not a big fan of things like this, so it's really good to get out and chat to you guys instead. So thank you very much for being here. As always, guys, same format. Ask your questions in the chat. We have a limit of 200 characters on your questions. If you need to split it into several parts, then do that. That's awesome. Chat on YouTube seems to function really, really well. If for whatever reason, however, I don't answer it, often it can just be that the chat on my screen has scrolled past your question if there's a lot of people putting things in, or sometimes it just doesn't show up. So again, if I've missed your question for whatever, just keep putting it in the chat and eventually I will see it and we'll take it from there. So as always, guys, if you want to start racking up your questions, if you've got any, stick them in the chat and I will get to them. While you are doing that, I want to cover something that was talked about in the group this week, and this is our group on Facebook, which if you are not a member of, go and join. I highly recommend it. It is awesome. Load of really cool people in there, really good community, and it's another really good place to get your kind of kite surfing questions answered by not just me, but by the entire community. So you get a lot more points of view than just mine, which is a really, really good thing, because I certainly don't claim to be the be-all and end-all of knowledge in kite surfing. There's a lot of other people out there who've got different viewpoints, different points of views, who are equally as valid. So it's really, really good to get this kind of cross-section of views, and that's what the Facebook group gives you. So if you're interested in joining that, if you're not already a member, head over to Facebook, type in Tantrum Kite Surf in the search bar, and then you need to select the tab groups, because we've also got a Facebook page. Not all that happens on the Facebook page. The action is in the group. That's where it's at. So if you're not a member there, go and join, and I'll speak to you in there as well. But as for the moment, as I say, any questions you've got, stick them in the chat, and we'll take it from there. But something that did come up in the group this week was someone asking about riding up wind and the fact that they were really struggling. They could do it more or less, but as soon as the wind got gusty or the sea state got choppy, they really, really started to struggle. And after a bit of to and froing, kind of asking questions and finding out what the actual detail was, it came down to this. And this is something that we've seen time and time again. And the reason that we see it time and time again, it's this whole thing in kite surfing where what you think is common sense is generally the absolute opposite of what you want to be doing. Because what most people do as they're riding along, trying to ride upwind, you're riding, and a gust hits. So what do? Naturally, you let the bar out. You let the bar out to release the gust, which common sense would tell you is a sensible thing to do. However, the problem when you do this, what you've just done, you push the bar out, but at the same time, because you're pushing the bar out, what you tend to do is you rock your body forwards, maybe even only slightly, but you tend to rock your body forwards. Now, what this does is it takes the board and it flattens off the board. So now, yeah, you've depowered the kite, but you've got very little resistance against the pull of that kite. So you're now just getting pulled off downwind. So what you need to do is actually the opposite. And again, this is where we come back to this idea of common sense isn't always right, because the opposite is you lean back. Now, the reason people struggle to think about this is because by leaning back, what you actually do is you're actually pulling the bar in slightly. Because as you lean back, obviously, your hips drop further back, your arms drop naturally further down, and everything shifts that little bit closer to you. So you may, at this point, you think, well, hang on a minute. If I'm pulling the bar in further, that means I'm sheeting in more, which means I'm powering the kite up even more in that gust. Yes, and this is where the counterintuitiveness comes in, because yeah, you are powering the kite up, but you're also, by leaning back, you are angling the board much more, almost to a point of perpendicular. Now, what you've got to realize here is that the board has a lot more potential to depower the kite than you do with the bar. So even though you're powering the kite up, by moving the angle of the board, you are effectively controlling the kite, because you're slowing the kite down, sending it to the front of the window. And because you've got such an edge engaged, you really, really now can resist against that pull of the kite and slow everything down. So this is where riding at wind, and this is why riding at wind is difficult as well, because this isn't always true. Sometimes you will want to rock forward, and this is just a question of experience as to how strong is the gust, how much can I resist it? Because obviously if you try and drop back and you haven't got enough strength in your legs, it's too big, and you're going to actually skip out, it's going to end in you just skidding downwind. So this is where experience to know, well, should I rock back or should I rock forward? So this is why upwind is an art, not a science, I would say, because a lot comes down to, okay, well, how choppy is it? How gusty is this wind? How big is this gust? How strong am I? How heavy am I? How much breakfast have I had today? How much can I hold down? How much can I hold this board down, so to speak? So again, this whole idea of kind of whatever you think is, a really, really good rule of thumb in kite surfing is whatever you think seems like common sense, and you'll probably be right. 9 times out of 10, the opposite will be right. And the really good example of this is go back to the very beginning, bar out. Common sense tells you pull the bar in to steer. Whereas after, this is the biggest problem when everyone starts, is you've got to get the bar out. And this is where everyone suffers. So again, a really good rule of thumb that I've come to realize over the years is just whatever your common sense is telling you, do the opposite. And you're probably be nearer to what you want to be than if you follow common. So again, hope that kind of explains it a little bit. This would be a really good one to have Bob here with. Unfortunately, he wasn't invited to this wedding. He's not here with me today to you. But hopefully you can get the idea of kind of rocking forward against rocking back, and why rocking back when you're becoming overpowered is a really good answer. Now, the problem arises when you get massively overpowered, because then having rocked back, if you're still overpowered at this point, there's nowhere to go except explode. You tend to just have that massive explosion and everything gets wiped out. So again, this is why it comes down to a judgment call in the split second, which can only be done by experience of how is this one I can ride out and resist, or is this one that I've got to go just head off downwind, hope that I regain this edge at some point in the future. But if you're out in winds that mental, I would suggest maybe if you're not that confident, you should be going anyway. So this is kind of my theory on it there. This is where overpowered versus nicely powered is difficult to judge, because as well, gusts just go mental, especially like today here in Tenerife, we've got gusts up to kind of 45, 50 knots. So it's very difficult to say this 100% of the time, but as a general rule, that works quite nicely. Okay, Justin, hello sir, how are you, mate? How are the conditions in Tenerife in February, and is there much to do for non-kiting? Yep, girlfriend and daughter 7. Much to do for non-kiting family? Tons. Yeah, it's probably one of the best resorts in the world kite surfing wise for that, and there's loads of other stuff going on. You've got loads of cool places fairly close. For the day of no wind, you've got Seville, you've got Cadiz, you've got a load of really cool kind of spots to go and visit. The whole coastline up from here to Cadiz is incredible. So you can just go and do a beach crawl. So that, and there's tons of other activities as well. Something that's really changed in Tenerife in the last 5 years is it's matured as a resort, so to speak, in that you've got mountain biking, you've got quad biking, you've got kayaking, you've got wakeboarding. You've got tons and tons of other stuff that you can do on downtime. There's a lot more touristy stuff as well that you can do, tapas cruises like this. Tenerife is a really, really cool town for that. And that's probably one of my biggest likes about Tenerife is that if there's no wind, or there's too much wind, as in today, there's tons of other stuff to do. Not a problem at all. So that's one of the great things about Tenerife, as opposed to, say, I don't know, Dakar, where, it's great, it's amazing for kite surfing, but there's not so much to do for the non-kiters apart from just sit on the beach. Temperature and wind, yeah, wind great all year round, amazing all year round. February, temperature wise, you can be risking it. Our winter here basically is January, February, really. Now that doesn't mean that it's winter. I mean, I don't know, where are you from, Justin? From sort of Holland, UK, somewhere around there. If you've come to Northern Europe, and the winter is nothing like can get here is we can get the occasional storm passing through, which can be 2 or 3 days of rain, super strong onshore winds with waves, which is pretty much Netherlands. I think you maybe told me that before, Justin. I think I knew that for some reason. So yeah, it's nothing like the winters there. It's generally warm. For example, my mum comes down and she's going in the water swimming on like New Year's Eve, in the middle of winter here. So temperature wise, it's great, but you can get rain, storms, which really here is no fun. Spain is like England in the snow. It just shuts down. Nothing works. Internet stops working, television stops working, the country just falls to pieces, or at least so would be my answer. If you get it right, if you get the right, it's amazing. And for me, the winter is the best time. From now until mid-May or end of May is the best time of year because it's quiet. You've got all the beaches. It's a bit cooler. For me in the summer, it's too hot here. Got your absolute choice of the beaches. So for me, it's time. If I was coming as a tourist in February, generally you're going to be fine, but what I don't want to say is it's going to be amazing and then you hit one of those weeks where it just rains all week, because that is miserable. So that's what I would say, especially if you're coming for yourself and you're a good kiter. It doesn't matter, because the rain and those conditions don't stop you from kite surfing. If you're coming with non-kiting family, that will put them off a little bit, I would think. So yeah, that I would leave. Again, you're most likely to look out. It happens, we get sort of 2 weeks of rain generally, but when those weeks are is anyone's guess. So that's what I was kind of saying on that one, mate. What's the best kite position in the window to go upwind? 45 degrees or close to the edge? How do you mean close to the edge? Your kite will always be close to the edge when you're riding upwind. Your kite always rides close to the edge. Just the edge of the window shifts backwards, so to speak. So your whole window shifts. Now that's a totally different conversation, and I've done videos on YouTube about that, and without Bob and the wind window to show you that, or at least the paper, which you find me today, it's going to be difficult to explain that. But the kite always flies at the front of the window. Okay, so if you're talking about angle, like 45 degrees above your head, the sea, and again, this is where riding upwind is an art. You want it as low as you possibly can without stalling. Why? Because the lower it is, the more you are edging against it. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, the higher the kite is, the more you're going to pull onto the flat, which means that you're not gripping, which means that you're just heading downwind. So ideally, on a perfect kite, literally just sat above the water. Why? Because at that point you can edge your board almost perpendicular against it. If you can do that, then it means that you are just shooting straight upwind. The higher that your kite gets, the more you're being pulled off your edge and the flatter the board becomes. So at this point, then, as soon as you raise your kite even slightly, you're being pulled off the edge and you're being pulled further downwind. Now, does that mean you always have to have your kite as low as you possibly, water when you're trying to go upwind? No, because in light winds, that just won't be possible, because you'll try and do that close to the water. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, because in lighter winds, if you've got it closer to the water, there's going to be too much resistance in the board and you're just going to stall. So what I would say is the correct answer to this, I suppose, is as low as you possibly get the kite without stalling. And again, this is why riding upwind is an art, not a science, because that's going to constantly change, as the wind lulls, as you hit chop, as the head down a wave, that position is going to change so it's a constant readjustment. And I think this is the thing that took me the longest to get my head around with riding up winds. It's not just a case of set your position, I'm riding up wind. It's a case, I've got to be constantly tweaking my position, my kite position, my body position, my board position, to get to be in the optimal position for the conditions that are occurring now. And that's what's kind of difficult, I think. That's what makes riding upwind, as I say, more of an art than a science. So yeah, hope that helps, David. Again, any comebacks on these questions, obviously just stick them in the chat. Any more questions, guys? That is it. The hopper is empty. Any questions, or are you going to make me go back into this wedding? It's not that bad. It's not that bad, really. It's just I'm not one of these people that likes making small talk and chit chat and la 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 la. It's not really my thing. So go on, Justin. Keep them coming, mate. Keep them coming. Say the longer you can keep me here, the happier I am. It's absolutely perfect. We're talking about the temperature in Tarifa. It is still baking hot here. Sitting in this car isn't sweating out all the toxins today. It's a very good thing. Bit of a Justin, you said in an early video to shorten the lines for practice. Yeah, I certainly did. My top tip for beginners. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, it's difficult to explain how. Why? Because every bar is very different. Now, again, let's talk about the steering lines because they're generally really easy. So what you do is you run the lines out. Then what I would do is unattach, because normally your steering lines just attach on a knot, just as you would do at the kite. They attach the same way at the bottom, or there's some kind of system, where it's very workout. Maybe it's in the lark's head, gooseneck, whatever that knot. 12 years of kite surfing, still don't know. I think it's a lark's. But you basically unattach the line at the bottom. So now you've taken off the steering line. Now what you do is you bend the line over on itself, and you would attach the top of the knot underneath that point, and then reattach the line itself. Or if the attach if you have the two loops and the line was attached there, you could just loop the line. God, I'm making a mess of this. Let's start again. So let's say your line is attached to the bar by one of those double loops. So it's looped inside and then looped around. So it's not a knot to a loop, it's a loop to a loop that's been run through. So what you would do then, create a loop at the top end of the bar, of the line, sorry, and then run that loop back down the entire line. So you're doubling the line over as you go, and then just tighten the loop up underneath the junction of line that comes out of the bar and the actual steering line itself. So it's almost like attaching under a knot. So then fold that line over. Does that make sense? Because I made a real hash of that. So just let me know if you're with me so far, more or less. So another way of thinking would just unattach the steering line, wrap a knot in that line that comes out of the bar, and then just attach the steering line twice, attach the top of the steering line, bottom of the steering line under that knot. So you've now loop, and the line is attached twice at the bottom. That makes sense. It's quite difficult. Well, it's quite difficult for me to explain without actually showing you. I'll have to do a video where I actually go through this on the bar itself. The reason I don't is because center lines become a bit more tricky, and every bar is very different, and the thing that you've got to really watch out for is disabling the safety, which can really happen on the center lines. But just let me know if you've understood the concept of the steering lines, and I'll explain to you a little bit how it's on the power lines. Nothing I can really demonstrate with here either. Yeah, I have to make a video, mate. Yeah, because basically, let me try and explain this. Let me see if I can think of a good example. Right, tell you what. Let me steal this. See, you can see at a wedding. Where else would you get something like this? Not me, obviously. I'm not using a fan. Obviously, I'm way too cool for that. But let's say this is your line, okay? This is the end that attaches to the bar. Now, beneath this, you've got a thicker bit of line which attaches to the bar itself. So there's a bit of line, and this is where the actual line itself starts, okay? Now, at the end, this end, you've probably got a pigtail. So first of all, take off the pigtail, and you should be left with just the loop. What you'd do is you'd probably just, the easiest way is just feed that loop, feed this line through the loop, so the whole thing doubles over like this, and then just use your normal lark's head, again, just to attach it there. So you've got a line doubled up now. And now you'll reattach, you just create another loop here. So you just create a normal lark's head here. So you just loop it through. And then you'd attach your pigtail to the end of the loop. So this is what prevents wear on the lines, because now you're not attaching your lines directly to your kite, you're reattaching your pigtail here, which then attaches to your kite. Because to attach your lines directly to your kite would be a bad idea. So you want to attach the pigtail to the kite. Okay, now again, not sure if that makes any more sense, not sure if that's helped at all. But again, just let me know in the chat if that has. And you would do exactly the same for the center lines. The problem with the center lines is they don't have an obvious attachment point. Some don't. So often this takes a little bit of jerry rigging. Like, for example, on my bars, what I have to do is attach another basically at the bottom of both lines so that there's a pigtail run through the block, and then you reattach the lines to those pigtails. Makes a bit more sense. Yeah, okay. What I'll probably do is probably try and make a video of this. But again, it's quite difficult to actually, for me, I'm a very good video person. So what I might do is just try and do like a drawing video of this, because to try and do it even to show you, to try and get the positioning right in real life is actually quite tough. It's quite tough for my minuscule brain anyway. I'm sure someone who knows what to do really easily. But I really struggle with the kind of the design aspects of video. So yeah, I will definitely try, and because it's something that for me is super important to do, and it's not something that is anywhere online. Yeah, okay, what I'll do is I'll try and put together a video, and I'll just stick it out there, and then let's just take it from there. Maybe you guys can help by asking questions on the video, which will give me a bit of feedback as well, and I can kind of make a better video, because it is seriously lacking on YouTube as well, and would be really good to have, I think, just for everyone out there. So let's see if we can put something together for that, because yeah, a video would definitely help, for sure. But basically, you're doubling the lines over, or quadrupling the lines. You quadruple them over, so you can take 25-meter lines and turn them into kind of half-meter lines. You can keep folding them as many times as you want, really. Well, it's want to do much more than twice, to be fair. Otherwise, you end up getting ridiculous amounts of lines everywhere. But you can bring your lines right down. Yeah, the delay is awesome, isn't it? Yeah, it seems a bit worse than normal today as well. So yeah, so that's probably what the best idea is to do that, because as I say, it's really quite tough for me to explain it, or unless I had like a small model that I could use as well. The difficulty comes, and the reason why I haven't really kind of pushed a video on this is because everyone's bar is so different that to try and do a generic one for the center lines, again, what I don't want people doing is doing it just because that's the way it's shown in the video, and then disabling their safety, which is the thing that you've got to be really careful of with this one. So yeah, I will definitely try and do a video though. So yes, for sure, that would really help. Or if anyone knows a better way of explaining it than I've just butchered there, then for sure, bang it in the comments, let us know. Because there's probably a better way of explaining it than that car crash that I've just come up with there. So, okay, yeah, let me just check. Any more questions? I'm burning up inside this car. This reminds me of being back in France. Can we come stay? Absolutely. Yeah, I will do. I will, and this is exactly what I will do. Yeah, for sure. It's probably just me making excuses more than I'm than because doing videos like that scares the bejeebus out of me. Kind of all these, getting in close, doing all the angles, la la la. I'm quite happy to stand up in front of the camera and talk, but when it comes to the more technical stuff, I mean, there's so many guys out there that do such technical videos, and I'm just dreadful at it. Dreadful, totally, to be honest. Just not something I really enjoy. But yeah, I will force myself to go and do it for sure. For sure, I will, and I'll get someone to come and film it. So yeah, expect one of that in the next few weeks for sure. I will definitely try and get something out. Because even if I get just something out really quick, just to show you, and then you guys come back and that was great, that was rubbish, that didn't make any sense. Then we can take it from there. Timmy, of course, stay, mate. Of course you can, no problems. Always welcome in Tarifa. Because I'm at a wedding. I'm at a wedding, mate. By the dapper shirt. You don't have to see me in one of the. In fact, you will never see me in one of these, really. I'm supposed to be at a wedding. I've escaped to come and talk to you guys. Plus, to be fair, it's about 50 knots out there at the moment, gusting from about 25. So it's probably not pleasant. So I'm quite glad to not have to be on the ocean today because it's probably not the nicest day to be out there anyway. Any more questions, guys? Gusty can be fun for sure. For sure, yeah, yeah. 12 years of it though, a little bit over it by now, I have to say. That's a better idea, Justin. Yeah, that is a good idea. That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. Yeah, that would work a treat. Yeah, it's so simple. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Right, okay, I'll do it in the next few days. Well, I'll wait till it stops blowing 50 knots, and then I'll do it from there. Yeah, for sure. Don't make me. Don't make me. And you, Timmy. And you, sir. And you. Any more for any more, or is that it for today? Seems like that's coming to a natural close. Okay, well, if that's it, I shall return to the wedding. Cool. Well, thank you very much for being, guys. As always, been a pleasure. Great to talk to you, questions, and hope to see you all next week. Have a good one. See you soon, guys. Goodbye.